Good morning and welcome to Michigan Farm and Garden. I'm Jody Pollock-Newsome and I'm your host. We have a great show lined up for you this morning. We're going to talk about forestry. We're also going to talk about hunting season. We're going to talk a little bit about soybeans and we're going to share a great venison recipe. Stay tuned. Good morning, and again, welcome to Michigan Farm and Garden. We do have a great show lined up for you this morning. My first guest this morning is Steve Shine. He is with the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and we're going to talk about a new program called Forestry Assist. Certainly, we know that there's a lot of lands out there that are privately owned, so we're going to talk a little bit and give some information to some of those landowners, wondering what do we need to do, how do we manage it sustainably. Steve's going to give you some ideas, some great pointers, and tell you about the Forestry Assist program, how it's here, and how it can help. Then we're also going to talk about a topic that is a long, very strong in tradition here in our state, and that is hunting. We certainly know there's a lot of hunting seasons that are upon us. So I have with me Brent Rudolph from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and we're going to talk a little bit about the herd, and then we're also going to talk about hunting, share some dates with you, and share some information so you're up to speed, and give you a little bit more so you know how things work here in our state and what those opportunities are. Then we are back again with Keith Reinholt of the Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee. We certainly know that there's a lot of opportunities when we look at soybeans and look at the future. So Keith is going to share some information with us, get us up to speed, tell us about what some of those opportunities, what some of those challenges are, and kind of walk us through. And I think by the time you're done, you're going to be pretty excited about what we can do here in our state. We certainly know agriculture is important, but there's so many opportunities when we look at crops like soybeans. Then, folks, I am very excited to have back with me again Mary Sowers. Mary has been on the show before. She is back as a very avid sportswoman, and she is going to share a wonderful recipe for venison meatballs with a sweet mustard sauce. It looks and tastes absolutely wonderful. So folks, you want to make sure you get that recipe and you add that to your repertoire, and you'll be able to do everything you need. We're going to learn about the management. We're going to learn about the forest and that habitat. We're going to talk a little bit about hunting, and then we're going to go ahead and share with you what you need to know as far as a recipe. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned, and we will be back with our first guest right after the Michigan Farm and Garden Fact of the Week.
It's time for the Michigan Farm and Garden Fact of the Week, brought to you by the Corn Marketing Program of Michigan.
Soybeans have more than a $1.5 billion economic impact, resulting in nearly 7,000 jobs within the state. They are grown on more than 10,000 farms in more than half of Michigan's counties. Soybeans are used in candles, shampoos, makeup, lotions, chain oils, ink, lubricants, spray foam insulation, crayons, teddy bears, vegetable oil, and soy milk, just to name a few uses. For more information, go to michigansoybean.org.
Corn touches your life every day. With over 600 items in the store that contain corn, it's America's renewable resource. There are amazing new products made from corn, like comforters, clothes, corn stoves, dinnerware, and of course, ethanol.
Corn, America's renewable resource, powering industry, feeding America, and fueling the future.
Thanks to Michigan's corn farmers, the future is bright for innovative products made from corn. To learn more about how corn touches your life, visit our website.
And welcome back. We are back with Steve Shine, Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development and Pollution Prevention. I had to make sure I got that all right. So yep. Steve, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you here, and we talk about what's going on in agriculture and what's important, and we certainly know with this governor, we've really had some main focuses. I'm going to have you talk a little bit about that and about how that works with the Forestry Assist program.
Great, thanks Jody. Well, our new governor is very interested in talking about the land-based industries here in Michigan, agriculture, forestry, and mining. Agriculture is doing great, $74 billion part of the economy. So he's tasked us with working on the private forest resource to get some more activity on that front, to get going. So today is the first day of the fiscal year, and so with today we're starting a new forestry assistance program that's available out in the countryside for private forest landowners.
Well, and I think that's so important because a lot of folks tend to have a little forest, maybe quite a bit, and sometimes you're just not really sure what to do with it, how do you work with it, and how do you manage it?
Exactly. So I'd like to start off with a little story.
Okay.
So my wife volunteered me to help with the school field trip, and it was a great day. We went out and we walked through the woods with the 4th grade at our school, and the teacher did a fine job of taking us through the woods and talking about the oak trees and how they grow and whatnot. And it was all going very well, and I love Dr. Seuss, but she got the Lorax book out and she decided to read to the kids the Lorax, which is a great story. But in case you don't know the gist of the story, there's a tough tree that this person decides to over-harvest. And so I asked the kids at the end of the story, which they all really enjoyed, what was the takeaway message from the Lorax story? And they all told me that the takeaway was cutting trees is bad. And this is the challenge that we're dealing with, that unfortunately the kids are made to believe that cutting trees is bad and that trees are not a renewable resource, and obviously that's wrong. But to take that just the next step, I'm also involved in Scouts, and I deal with the young Scouts that are late middle school and early high school, and I have the same discussion with them about forestry, and they have the same perspective that cutting trees is bad. So this forestry assistance program that we're starting today, we're working with the conservation districts across the state, and the Department of Ag and Rural Development is working with the Department of Natural Resources, and we're working together to try to get some professional foresters in conservation districts who are available for landowners to manage the resource. So they'll come out on site and take them into the woods and walk around and look at what they have as far as the forest resource, help them to understand what they can do with that resource. And often landowners own the forest not for timber production, but rather for recreation and wildlife. So the most effective way to help them to achieve their landowner objectives is to manage the resource. So Michigan has an 11 million acre private forest resource.
Wow.
And less than 20% of that resource is actively managed. So we're trying to move that bar up so we can get into the 40, 50, 60, 70% threshold of active management. So we're doing that with private foresters, or foresters in the conservation districts, working with the private sector foresters to help landowners better utilize that resource.
Well, and that sounds like a huge job to move that needle, because 20% it isn't a whole lot, especially when we're looking at 11 million acres.
Exactly. And so you start slow and you kind of build up momentum with them to help them to understand that that cutting trees isn't bad, like I say. And we're doing that by hosting workshops and field days. So one way it's really helpful is to take a landowner who has this perspective in their head that things are bad about cutting trees and take them to a woods where it's been managed properly. So you don't take all the trees, you take the more mature trees, and you free up the canopy for the other trees that are left behind so that they can grow, and that you'll be able to have another cut in about 10 or 15 years, so that they can generate a little bit of revenue. It helps them to achieve their objectives for wildlife and recreation. And in the end, all that timber is going into the private sector for economic development and helping people get jobs in rural communities.
Well, and I think that makes so much sense. And a lot of times, I think folks get busy, you don't always think about it, and if you don't have the resources available, something like that can be pretty intimidating as to how do I get on top of it, how do I manage it. So bringing in the private folks and working with those conservation districts seems like a huge win.
Exactly. And anybody can go in the yellow pages and they can look up consulting foresters, but unfortunately people are a little bit intimidated about doing that. So by contacting the conservation districts, they have access to a professional forester that's well trained, but they don't have a profit motive. They're there as the objective third party, so they can help guide them through the process of securing assistance through the private sector. So if they need to do a timber harvest, they can help them hook up with a consulting forester to have their trees marked so they can do a timber harvest, or have a tree forest management plan written for them. So they have a roadmap of what they have and what they can do with it, and it helps them get started. Because unfortunately, if you don't do anything, well, the trees keep on growing. But unfortunately, if you look around the countryside, you'll see a lot of trees that just grow big and fall over. We don't have the same types of trees that they have out west, where you hear about, more mature forests. And so our trees will grow big, like black oak. They grow up and they fall over dead at 90 years.
Wow.
And that's not really, there's no economic gain derived from that.
Well, and Steve, we always run out of time, but for folks at home, I want to make sure we hit the number, or what do we do if they want to find out more or get an appointment scheduled? What do they do?
So the best way to get a hold of these foresters is get on the Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development's website. So it's www.michigan.gov/MDARD. And then they can click on the forestry tab.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Good. I like the story and the illustration. Certainly, folks, we know we talk about the importance of agriculture in our state. We have a very strong forestry industry in the state as well, and we want to make sure that you have the information that you need to be able to manage those lands, or maybe you know someone that needs some help managing some of those lands. We will put a link on the website. Visit us at MichiganFarmandGarden.com, and we'll go ahead and hook you up so you can get a hold of Steve and the folks at MDA and find out what you need to do and how you can get someone out to look at your timberland. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message.
The Cherry Marketing Institute wants you to know about tart cherries. Cherry's red color comes from powerful antioxidants. Available year-round, it's easy to incorporate cherries into your daily diet. Visit choosecherries.com.
Michigan's 1,000 apple growers take pride in producing delicious apples from one generation to the next. From the Great Lakes come great flavors. Look for locally grown Michigan apples.
Have Jody speak at your next agricultural event. Go to jodylive.com.
And welcome back. We are back with Brent Rudolph. He is the Deer and Elk Program Manager for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. That's a handful. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. And, you know, it is certainly that time of year when we're starting to think about what we can do outside, how we can get involved. And for us in Michigan, hunting is such a strong tradition.
Yeah, there's all kinds of outdoor opportunities in Michigan, and hunting is certainly a big part of it here in our state.
Well, and certainly as we look, you know, what are we looking at? Is it a strong trend? I know a lot of folks that get out there, and it is an annual event, and it's a family tradition.
That's right. I mean, we have almost 700,000 individuals that purchase a license to hunt deer every year in our state. Hunting in general is a big deal, and deer hunting is one of the biggest ones. About 90% of all hunters in Michigan do hunt deer, so that's one of the most popular activities. You know, hunting does everything from helping manage populations. Deer, you know, can be downsides to having lots of deer. We attempt to manage them. Obviously provides lots of great recreational opportunity and traditions. And it's really a big feeder into our natural resource-based economy, too.
Well, and I think sometimes people don't always think about that, but it really is a big deal as you get folks heading up to deer camp, and it really does help, and that's something those local economies really do count on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have long seasons as well. Right now, you know, October 1st marks the opening archery season, as it does every year here in Michigan. It runs through November 14th. Archery season then closes down for a while the firearm hunters take to the field and have their chance, and then opens again December 1st through January 1st. So. We look at over 320,000 people just pursuing deer during the archery season. Lots of people are traveling up north to hit to a lot of those public lands where there's great opportunities to get away and pursue deer in those areas. But certainly it's a big factor in southern Michigan as well.
Well, and I know you guys get involved, and certainly when we think of hunting, we think of DNR, but I know you have some different check stations and some different things that you guys do.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity this time of year for us to interact with the hunting public. Since the 70s, we've been offering a successful deer hunter or a deer management cooperator patch that we give out at our check stations. So it's voluntary in Michigan to check your deer, but for example, we had over 30,000 deer brought to check stations just last year. We like to remind hunters around this time of year that sometimes it can be difficult right after your successful hunt to get to a check station. And really the firearm season is the busiest time. Some stations are only open then or they're open longer hours during that time. So people can always just remove the jaw from a deer. The lower jaw is what we do to get the age of a deer. Okay. If you get it nice and clean and tidy like that, it's great. But anytime you have a chance to remove that, so you don't need to keep the whole deer. And then if it's a buck, the antlers. And then by keeping those, you can come back in any time where it's more convenient to get to a check station. Keep the information about where you took that deer and the date and so forth, and that's all the info we need. So it's great to show off your deer and come into a check station, but if you don't have the chance right after that successful hunt, you can go ahead and process it and take care of it and just bring those parts and some of that information with you.
Well, and I think too, we talk about how important it is looking at it as the family tradition and certainly all the other businesses that come up around it. Right. And I mean, really, when we look at funding, there are some great links when we look at some of that funding here in the state. That's
right. I mean, there's an economic impact from people spending money as they're doing trips and so forth out in the communities. But hunting license sales, and then a federal program that was established under the Pittman-Robertson Wildlife Restoration Act is a big part of what funds wildlife management. So we're trying to make an extra effort this year to thank hunters because it's the 75th anniversary of that federal program. The taxes on ammunition, firearms, archery equipment goes to the federal government and then comes back to the states based on land base and number of hunters you have. So Michigan being a big deer hunting state, we've had the benefit of over $260 million that have come back to the state of Michigan through that program to pay for anything from hunter education, acquiring land for hunting, and then a lot of just the management and conservation activities. Well, and certainly, too, when we think of the state, we hear all the pure Michigan, the pure Michigan agriculture, those kinds of things that are coming up in the different programs. For folks that are traveling in to take advantage of this, it seems, if you live here, it's such a natural just to even get out, to see that wildlife, to see those different animals. Right, and the upside is that anybody who just views wildlife, who enjoys hiking in the forest, that photographs of birds and other things, is benefiting from what hunters have done to help pay for the opportunity for a lot of those resources to be managed well in our state. Well, and it seems like, too, when we look at, managing the deer population, managing the wildlife, it just seems to be a really nice fit, and there's just so many, as you mentioned, so many benefits. Right. There's a great opportunity for this to be a big, cultural activity and economic generation of input into the state. We have more public land than any other state east of the Mississippi, with the amount of federal forests and state forests, and even in southern Michigan, the state game areas that never very far away from a place where you can get out to enjoy wildlife. And one of the main ways people do that here, obviously, is hunting and trapping and angling. Well, and if there are folks out there that say, "Boy, I'm interested. I don't know. What do I do?" Give us a website. How do we go get more information? There's a couple of great places to go if you're interested in deer hunting in particular. Michigan.gov/deer is the site where we've consolidated all the information about timelines for applying for permits, and the deer check station schedule and hours of operation are there. And Michigan.gov/hunting will give folks a lot of links about hunting in general, including some new programs we've put together for scouting out a place you might want to go hunt grouse or woodcock or deer. There's some tools there to be able to find a great place to go. Awesome. Well, Brent, thank you. All right. I appreciate it, and we'll have you back. You can keep us updated. Let us know how everybody's doing, and I'd be happy to.
And how we're doing managing that wildlife. Folks, certainly opportunities to get out there and experience the wonderful state that we have here in Michigan. I will put the links on the website, and you can go learn more and start your own family tradition.
This chicken is beak over claw for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one chicken may not be too much to cluck about, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing: our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
And welcome back. We are back with Keith Reinholt of the Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee. Keith, welcome back.
Hi, Jody. Thank you. And we're going to have to stop meeting like this, aren't we?
I know. Well, it's because you guys are doing so much. Every time we talk about something, we think of more.
That's
and
right.
I just think it shows a lot to have a grower-funded organization doing all the different kinds of things that you guys do.
Agriculture is exciting, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. So I'm going to kind of let you walk us through.
Well, I've got, the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I have kind of a title slide up that we might put up there, because we're going to talk about challenges facing bio-based products. So that I've got more slides, but maybe we can pull away from that because we want to visit just a bit, if we can, of what some of these challenges are. And many of these evolve around knowledge, education, people not being aware of products that are out there. And when I say bio-based, I frequently think of those that are annually renewable, environmentally friendly, biodegradable. I think those are the things we think of. But the panacea of those takes some effort. There's right now maybe not the cost benefit one would like to have. There's maybe distrust in whether they perform. But one of the big things is education. And that's one of the things that we think we have to do. We have, if I could just be somewhat selfish here, the soybean industry has taken upon ourselves to help in this educational effort. We went to Ford Research and Innovation Center in Dearborn, and we had an educational meeting that involved media, that involved educational institutions to help with this very facet of people becoming aware. So we've got several slides. Maybe we could pull up one, and this one here, can you believe the Goodyear blimp says soy on it? Now,
that's pretty cool.
I think that's cool. And this was all part of this educational event. And when I think of Goodyear, I think of tires. I think the next picture we have is of a Goodyear tire. And I put this on there for the main reason that this tire has soy-based products in it rather than petroleum-based products.
Oh, very cool.
This is maybe the tires of interest, so maybe we want to just look at that for a second. But in Europe, this is already being addressed. When the tire wears on the road, it leaves something behind. It leaves a petroleum product behind. So we have some concerns about that. I think the next pictorial will address the educational component with the meeting that we had at Ford Research and Innovation Center. Some people might recognize Senator Stabenow on this picture. And with her is USDA Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack. And we had them involved in this from the educational component that the government is a tremendous purchaser of products. And we need to make sure they're involved, they know about bio-based products, and at least have the opportunity to purchase those. I think the next slide gives a little better idea of educational sessions. We had this education, we had academia there, we had private enterprise companies there, we actually had students there doing poster sessions so that people become aware of where are products, what are they, do they work, what avenue do they address. So we thought it was important to put on a seminar, and we did this for a day and a half. We had different activities. I think the next slide will give you an idea of the importance that we're placing upon academics. You know, young people in this day and age, I think, have renewed interest in sciences. I think they have renewed interest in chemistry. How can we channel that into an environmental chemistry, environmental science? Many of the curriculums in colleges and high schools in this day and age do not have an inclination for those. So we hosted students from the high school and college level there. We thought that was very important. We thought it was also important, the next slide shows this, I believe, that these people have some exposure to rural agriculture. So we had a bus trip, and we took them out to a farm. This farm, interestingly enough, happens to be a farm in the Ford Land Management. This was a farm that Henry Ford had when he was alive. It's now been refurbished. It's actually being farmed. We had a dinner, and we had educational components there. So the important thing here, I think, is we have products. We have bio-based products. We have those that work. How do we let people know? What's the educational component? How can we get a curriculum at the academic level in colleges so that students can take environmental chemistry, environmental science, they can look at bioproducts, whether it's soy or whatever, and understand that there's carbohydrates, there's starches, there's amino acids, things there that they can derive and make bioproducts out of. So yes, they're out there, but there's still a lot of work needs to be done to get these in the general public and general sector.
Well, and Keith, I think it's so important you say that because bio has been the buzzword. We've heard all about it, but to actually get it down there and to get the kids and researchers looking at what's the next phase that makes it more environmentally friendly even than it is to begin with, that makes it more economical. I mean, that's really where we need to keep moving to make sure we're keeping them out there on the cutting edge.
And if we don't, I guess we have some real concerns. It seems like the momentum is in that direction right now, and we don't want to shift the momentum. And I'm not saying that all products out there are bad, but I think we can make some improvements. I think this rubber tire is one. And interestingly enough, Goodyear is going forward with this, and they're doing some testing, and we think by 2015 there will be tires out there that have a bio-based component to them. So it's an effort and something that's important, we think.
Okay, well, keep up the good work.
Well, thanks, Jody. We're going to try. All right, great.
Folks, as we hear, as Keith says, we know we've talked before about the foam seats being made out of a soy product. If we can look at tires made out of soy, think of all the things that we can do right here from commodities grown in our own state. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message.
It's a love. It's a passion. The horse gets in your soul.
It's awesome to sit in there and watch all the 8-horse and 6-horse hitches go around the arena.
We have some of the greatest horses that can be found on the continent.
Michigan Great Lakes is probably the #1 show to come to.
It's one of the biggest and best shows in the United States.
This is a premier event for shade draft horses here in the state of Michigan. That's why I'm here.
We just keep coming back because it's a vacation for us.
It's the highlight of the draft horse industry.
And welcome back. We are back with Mary Sowers, who has made a wonderful, wonderful recipe. And Mary, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me again. I really enjoy being here.
It's great to have you here. And last time you were on, you were telling me about some of your wonderful, wonderful recipes. So I thought, you know what?
Pull me back
That's
in.
right. So I'm going to have you tell us about this because they're absolutely wonderful.
Well, this recipe, I took a meatball recipe that I had for an Italian meatball, and I have used it for venison. I take the seasoned breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese and mix it with an egg and milk mixture, and you get your hands in there and you work it up, and the kids love helping out doing that kind of thing. So you get it all mixed together, roll it in very small 1-inch meatballs, as we have here on the plate. Brown them in a frying pan with a little bit of olive oil for 6 to 8 minutes. And then after you have them browned, what you do is you actually take the meatball and put it into the prepared sauce to have it finish cooking. Now, this meatball recipe can be used with any of your favorite sauces. If you have a favorite spaghetti sauce, barbecue sauce, cheese sauce, you want to go tailgating this time of year, this is perfect. You could just cook the meatballs and then have a variety of sauces to put it in. But it's if someone's a little hesitant about trying the wild game, you put a recipe like this in front of them and they'll be a lover.
Oh yeah, the mustard sauce is absolutely wonderful. I don't know if you want to walk us through that kind of quick, but it was absolutely delicious, because I have to say, as you were getting it plated, we were all checking it out.
Oh yeah. Well, the mustard sauce is very easy to make. It's just a can of condensed milk, dry mustard, and then you can use the white vinegar, or if you want, you can use white wine. And mix it up, and it can stay refrigerated in your refrigerator for up to a couple weeks. My family just loves it. When I make it, I always make a double recipe, because you can use it on salads or sandwiches or fish. It's just an excellent, excellent recipe.
Well, and folks, it tastes wonderful. If you would like to try this, as always, you can visit us online at MichiganFarmandGarden.com or write to Michigan Farm and Garden Recipes, P.O. Box 461, Williamston, Michigan 48895. And Mary, I appreciate you being here with us to share this, and you know, especially as a sportswoman yourself, it's nice to watch things come together and to have some recipes to work off of as well. So we very, very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and invite me back soon.
We will. We'll have more. I know you have a lot more over there in your book. Folks, hopefully you get an opportunity to get out there, experience Michigan agriculture, get online, try this recipe, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.